All right, my sigh was caught, so that's it. Okay, let's go back here. All right, Pete, what was your second one again about the badge. And was that like for system settings you had the little red badge on?
Yeah, the little red thing, and so I finally clicked on it, and it's got emergency stuff, who to call, what happens when you fall down, how to get help, and all the other stuff, and the
Well,
medicine.
yeah, and don't think it's trying to tell you anything. That's not it. But
Well, it wants
anyway,
input. It wants my input, update.
yeah. So yeah, so and is did the badge go away?
When I put my update in my meds and I did whatever they asked me to do, they update who to contact and automatic phone calls, and a lot of stuff is in there.
Oh yeah, had you not filled it out before, or you had just done a little bit of it?
I done a little bit of it.
I think that's an important thing. So what we'll do is when everybody's here too, we're going to talk about that medical the ID thing because I think that's super important. So I'm glad you asked. But yours is square now.
I just can't find. I can't find my medicine update when I was in the doctor's office. I
Oh,
put it on, but once the red dot was gone, it's in there somewhere.
yeah, it means you did it. So it's actually in the health app, and I think I'll go into that. I'll display my phone and do that. So we'll do that once we get started. And please, everybody, remind me.
Hey,
So.
I might just quickly add, when I went to the Apple store a couple of years ago to get my phone, he also got me this ring feature. It's not the ring on the doorbell, but it's a ring for health issues. I can't believe that. He set it up for me 120 calories a day, 5,000
Oh,
steps a day. So I'm doing 5,000 and try to get 7,500 and 10,000, and it's all free on that iPhone.
mhm.
Well, it's free to track it, but the big thing is you at 90 plus are doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh,
and
and 95. I told my friend I just broke 95. She says on the 9 or the 18.
God, that's great, Pete. And God
Yeah.
bless you, man. You're my mentor and I hope I can get my stuff back up to that because that's why you're living so long. And remember, 100's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, not so young. Come on.
Well, it's a goal. That doesn't mean you can't overachieve.
It's not.
It's got to be attainable, and then
Yeah,
you
Hey,
can
it's
that's
go
not,
from there.
it's not only that. One of the widows up at the lodge, after 3 glasses of red wine, she came over and she thought I looked like Brad Pitt.
That's
Ah,
funny.
I
All
bet
right.
you get hit on a lot, Pete.
Yep. And I love the story that he actually he was in the Navy with my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Oh, and Ken, you'll like this. When my dad when it was in the convalescent home or whatever, the neighbor down the street down the row was on PT 109 with Kennedy.
oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was
Interesting.
quite some time ago, obviously, but
So a little trivia. The motors in the PT 109s were the Packard cars
right.
for those, and many of those motors have been retasked into really because they were just huge and powerful. There's specialty cars. In fact, Jay Leno has one that's an all steel or aluminum skin streamliner that has maybe two of those in it. But anyway, pretty amazing. So
Yep.
I was watching some video yesterday. We and it was kind of like we don't really produce stuff anymore. And in World War II, we were producing every 43 minutes a B-29. And I
Amazing.
mean, that's amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I know.
Randy, go for your question.
Yeah, actually, thank you. Actually, a couple comments, and
That'd be
that
fun.
is Really enjoying. I'm traveling, so you may want to get another co-host because I'm learning a brand new Apple Air, the M4, with the Apple Magic Keyboard. But the comment was, I did not know that Apple had changed. They've taken away the backlight on the Apple Magic Keyboard, so it no longer is backlit, which Elaine has one. It is backlit, an older version of the Apple Magic Keyboard. So just wondering if there is an Apple Magic Keyboard that is backlit and I just missed it. But hey, loving the new iPad Air. Again, I'm traveling, so you may want to have, well, Al's back there to back you up. I'm just learning the iPad, so
Well, now, was that the on the Magic Keyboard?
yes.
Are you talking about the one that's on that's for the computer, or the one that, because that's the Magic Keyboard, and I don't
Um,
ever remember them being backlit.
Mm-mm.
oh, Elaine's is backlit, and
Well,
there's
now wait a minute.
actually, yeah,
Is this a computer keyboard or an iPad keyboard?
iPad, and Elaine has a iPad Air, and yeah, like Al's showing right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Now
can
that I don't,
disconnect.
do they call that the Magic Keyboard also? I don't think it is.
you have to be in front of you there,
Yeah,
Al.
it has to put in front of right in front of you, Al.
I didn't know iPad used the word Air. I think of,
No, there's an iPad. No, there's iPad, iPad Air,
oh,
and iPad Pro. And the Air is between the two.
Yeah, and I'm loving
But
it.
now the keyboard, and again, I've never had a keyboard for my iPad, so it may in fact be lit, but I
oh,
know that the desktop ones are not, but the
Right.
ones on laptops are.
Yeah, Elaine can take it apart, unattach it. It's like a magnetic thing, and
Yeah, but it's part of a case, right?
yes, and that's what I have. It's part of a case.
Right. So and I'm not so, but they used to have it make so it was backlit and it isn't now.
Right. Hers, she can be there. I'm just wondering if it's an older version. Maybe it's still available, and maybe I'm
You
within.
got me
Yeah, I
on
got to
that
check
because
Apple Store.
I wasn't aware of that because I'm not familiar again
Yeah,
with the iPad keyboards.
and in the widgets on iPad Air, I can go down, and there is a backlight widget that you can put in. With the bar that goes down with all the different apps and things available. But on mine, where it shows when I looked at YouTube videos on why won't mine backlight, it's missing that part on mine. So my iPad Air does not allow it.
So I think this would be a good time because I want to talk a little about AI today.
Okay. Oh,
So
good.
you're asking the group, but let's
Yeah.
go ask 65 different websites.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken.
So
I'll go to silent here, but
no, that's fine. So
okay.
I'm going to fire up Safari, and I'm going to do this two ways. Our built into Safari, I'm going to say, and is hers an iPad Air, Randy?
Yes,
Okay.
an older version, but
Okay,
if
no
you need it,
problem.
I might be able to get it.
Nope, nope,
We're
that's all. So, um, are there backlit Apple keyboards?
Magic Keyboard.
I don't think it's magic. I'm just going to say Apple keyboards because I don't want to narrow it too much.
Okay.
Apple keyboards for iPad Air or were there. So when I do a search like that, most of the time it comes up and your first thing will show this. Yeah, see, I mistyped keyboards, but it doesn't matter. It's searching for that. But you get this first result, and my screen is being broadcast, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks like Al had a second, but it scrolled up. Let me look here. Yeah, they do call it Magic Keyboard. So anyway, but the idea here is, and then I click Show More, and then it says, yes, there have been Magic Keyboard. So I wasn't aware that they called it that because they call the regular keyboards Magic. Uh, the new Magic Keyboard for the M3 does not have backlit keys. So what would be my next question then would be to see if the backlit version will work on, you have a new one?
Yes, with the M4 chip.
Okay, so let me ask this. I'm going to click on, well, first I'm going to highlight this because I'm going to ask Grok the same question in a minute. And I want it to be the same, dive deeper. Okay, so it's going to do that same thing. Can I use the older backlit one on my M4, you said?
Yes, it's the
M
brand new one.
M4 iPad Air, right?
Correct.
Frankenstein fit. Newer current models, backlit alternatives. It looks like Logitech might have one.
Okay.
But yes, you can use the older backlit keyboard on a MacBook Air, also referred to as the 2024
Oh,
or M2 model in some contexts. Well, Apple released a new version of the Magic Keyboard alongside the Apple. The previous generation for the iPad Air, fourth and fifth, remains fully compatible. So you could search that out possibly.
okay.
Go
Okay.
down.
And
Compatibility says backlighting. Is that pertinent?
what's that? I'm sorry, Bev.
Go down 2 lines. It says backlighting, unlike the newest branded version, which reportedly lacks backlighting. Features are
Right.
full.
Unlike the 2025 branded version, the newer one lacks the backlighting. The original features a full-size backlit keys, but it says here official support is compatible.
But I
And
thought the
so they just
question
go,
was absence or presence of the backlight.
Right.
the
And
newer one is the newer one is absent the backlight. The older one
okay.
has the backlight. And then
Uh,
the second question then is, does it work on his? And it appears to. Does that, am I
Yeah.
missing something, Bev?
Yeah. No. I see now. Yeah. The older backlit ones. Yep. No.
Yeah. So, the only thing I can think of, it's either for price or they were having problems or just it's a little battery drain. But,
and it
especially when you end up using those things a lot. But the other thing is, doesn't the screen itself provide enough light to see the keys?
it would. I've only tried it once. You're right. If I do, increase the intensity or
Sure.
the screen lighting, it would help. Absolutely. And maybe if Al's looking at price points, you'd mentioned that, Ken. This was $249, and perhaps the older version, Apple Magic Keyboard, was at a higher price point. But I'm looking at my Apple payments here, and it's called the Magic Keyboard for iPad Air 11-inch M4 US English Black. $249 is what I paid for it.
So
But
I'm going to go
yeah,
into the refurb store to see if there's older versions, but it doesn't
okay.
appear there is. There's only the refurbished accessory. So not there. You might be able to find it at Amazon or somewhere else like that.
Oh, totally happy with what I got. I just wanted to throw that out. That was
So
more
I'm
of a
gonna I'm
comment.
gonna I'm gonna go to Grok and let's just test the exact same thing was the first question I asked. And we'll see searching the web, and it did 58 different websites. Kind of came up with the same thing. And then let's go back to our question was, can I use the older backlit one on the MacBook Air? So third-party options, they mention Logitech, ESR, etc. I mean, I actually prefer the Apple-based ones. So I'll ask this. Only 45 websites it checked. And then it pretty much goes into the same thing. So I like that it comes up with some recommendations. So let's talk about the difference between these two AIs. And of course, there's ChatGPT and everything. And I recommend uh, I use Grok and I'm signed in. I also have a ChatGPT account, so I use that. But I rarely use that. I do that if I'm just checking on stuff. Grok's my go-to because it's been very good and it's just amazing. And I this is pretty much the lowest version of it. But when I as a backup, because it's built into Safari, this is using Google's Gemini. So I'm still in Safari. I simply typed it into the URL bar at the top, and it gave me what I was looking for. If I go back a page, this comes here. And then, of course, the regular Google search is happening down here. So, and here is Apple support community and all that. But the beauty of using AI to do this, it took it took what was typed or dictated, you could use your voice, and it went out to a bunch of sites. And the other thing is, the nice thing it confirms it what it does is it goes to like forums and places like that. So first of all, it determines which websites would be the best for that information. And then it digs down in and it might be 13 pages deep in a thing on a forum and it's going to find it and bring in that information. And then when you get that information back, you can ask it further how you want to refine it. So, even specifically to yours, and then you can. Grok doesn't necessarily do links here very often, but you can ask it for links and things like that. So, and this is this is very this is a very pedestrian, uh, minor thing with AI. So I call this Google search on steroids. And to me, it's so much more efficient. And again, it's totally free if you do it in Safari up at the top. It doesn't go into Google and it's doing this. But going forward, and I was going to talk about this today a little bit anyway, the Worldwide Developer Conference is coming out June 8th through 12th, and that's where Apple will be previewing the new operating systems that'll be coming out in the fall. And 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 SIRI and Apple Intelligence, which is Apple's AI, are remarkably bad and not they just haven't been present. And so and Apple's kind of changed the tact on this, and it's good. But they're really gonna, after 2 years, they're finally gonna get to the promises that are done. So let me tell you what Apple's doing, what their plans are, and how we benefit from it. And then I'll talk to you why it's a wise move. So just like with M3, well, we'll just talk about what's going to happen. So Apple, first off, Apple gets $4 billion a year from Google to be the default search on our devices, all our Apple devices. And of course, I mean that's a good symbiotic relationship. And you can change it. You can change in Safari. You can change it to search DuckDuckGo, or God forbid you could choose Bing or one of the others, Yahoo or something like that. But I choose Google because it's the best search. And then what it does is it puts me into this AI. Going forward, so Google pays Apple $4 billion a year. Now that's because when we get a search, you can see here that, well, this one not so much, but there are some sponsored links that come in when you normally look for stuff. And those sponsored links, that's how Google generates its income. Everybody always thinks they're a customer of Facebook and they're a customer of Google. Well, no, you're not. You're the product. And what happens very perniciously with Facebook is by using it, they're harvesting your demographic information and they're selling that to their advertisers. And that's very lucrative for the advertisers. It's, you know, uh, Google does that also, and they're trying to be more transparent with it, but that's how they make their money. That's how they can afford to give Apple $4 billion a year. Well, Apple kind of turned it back on them because Apple was developing their own artificial intelligence, as was about 25 other different companies. So everybody thinks they need to roll their own on artificial intelligence. Well, and everybody thinks they have the answer and the secret sauce to make theirs better than someone else's. In the early days of artificial intelligence, there were certain things. Some people had better search for images or artificial intelligence where it would create, icon, uh, comical kind of images and things like that. One was better than another, and everybody's trying to be everything to everybody. And it will probably work out to be more of a specialty thing. I read at one point, my best friend, who I go on the Great Race every year, he's the owner of the car and the driver, which is my background on my screen, just so happens. Uh, he's an emergency room doctor, and he's the chief medical officer for 3 rural hospitals. And he wasn't aware of this, but there's a specific AI that is what the doctors use. And now he's using it like crazy. And it's free for doctors, but it's specialized in medicine. And that's important because doctors would ask things in different ways that are going to be, more uh, more specific, and it gives answers back. And so it's the same thing as a bunch of doctors walking around a hospital, and one guy says, "Hey, I got this problem here. What do you guys think about it?" So that's pretty good. But that's the specialty thing. But it's kind of like the old .com boom. Everybody wanted to be everything to everybody on the internet as far as selling things. We had who had the best dog food out there, who was the best this. Well, if you look at Amazon as the the player and what happened with Amazon, Amazon started out, and that was early internet, as a bookseller. And the name Amazon came from, as a bookseller, it's important to have all the different books, because if someone's looking for an obscure book and they can find it, they're going to try buy it. And not only that, of course, all the regular books, and make sure you had stock. So they developed first as a bookstore, and it wasn't too long. And then, of course, Barnes and Noble, an existing brick and mortar bookstore, tried to develop an online presence and stuff. But what Amazon did is they were just customer service wise, kind of sometimes on price, but the convenience, they really made it happen. And then Amazon, of course, branched off into all the things they do now. And they had what's called, so, and of course, in the beginning, people that invested in Amazon, Amazon spent so much money in the beginning. It's like, oh gosh, they're going to go bankrupt. This is a fraud, don't invest, because they lose so much money. But they were very smart by investing all that money, because there were other people that were trying to do what they were doing. And none of them, including Walmart, really succeeded at it. And so Amazon became the powerhouse. And that's called first mover advantage. So, in other words, they were the first and the biggest. So you get critical mass at some point. It's kind of like search. Everybody says, I go Google it. They don't say, I go search the internet. You say, you go Google it. It's, I'm going to go get a Kleenex. When I was in the board sailing business, it was everybody grabs a windsurfer. So it's that first mover advantage, and you kind of become a noun instead of a verb. So Amazon, and to their credit, they don't have the cheapest price. They have a reasonable price, but they have everything you want, and they get it to you very quick. And their return policy is very good, which was also a thing that was very difficult, because remember, you go to a brick and mortar store, you get to see what it looks like, you can touch and feel it. And of course, what really happened is, in the beginning, when there were brick and mortar stores, people would go in and they'd go look at the product and say, oh, okay, that's what it's like. I'll go order it on Amazon. And I grew up in retail, and I retail's tough, and it made it very difficult, because the margin a retailer, they're paying for employees, they're paying for rent, they're paying for insurance and all that other stuff. And actually, in the beginning, remember, there wasn't sales tax on stuff we bought online, and that gave essentially a 7.5% advantage to the sales online. That got solved, because the government always wants more money. So anyway, Amazon flourished with that. Now, Walmart has caught up, and in fact is very competitive. What's very interesting with Walmart, if you shop at Walmart online, they not only have what they have in stock, they have integrated into their catalog or their offerings other stuff. So it's really pretty good, and they're giving them a bit of a run for their money. But I default to Amazon, because it's there. It's just pretty amazing. So, but the bringing that around to AI, there are when so everybody, and I think it's absolutely crazy. It's kind of like the gold rush days. Everybody thinks they need to build these huge server farms, and they get a lot of investment money, and they're going to build these large server farms. But here's the complication to that. There is one main company. Well, it's kind of, so we'll talk about computer chips, because this is the underlying thing, and I study this stuff a lot. It just intrigues me. There is one company in Scandinavia called ASML, and they make these silicon wafers. I'm sorry, they make the machines that make the chips. And so they are very limited, these machines are $400 million machines. And these machines, they're called lithography. So think of it kind of like a silk screening process. But what they do is they take, and first of all, silicon chips, silicon is basically sand. So the beauty of this whole tech revolution is the cost of materials of the chip is next to nothing, and we have an abundance of sand, silica. And I mean, they get special one that's very pure and everything, but you know what? The material costs virtually nothing, and it's very prolific. But they have to etch. They basically, with laser, they take the silicon and then they pretty much etch out a wiring pattern. It used to be wires, but now it's on a piece of silicon wafer. And they're stacked many layers deep. Well, the big deal is how thin you can make it, because there's multiple layers, and they're getting at what's called 2 nanometer now, which is less than the thickness of a human hair by a significant amount. And by getting the chip to have very small area in there and you can stack them up, 3 things happen. It uses less energy because there's less pathway it has to move. Think about a long wire versus a very short wire. Secondly, it's much, much faster because it's not traveling as far, even though it travels super fast. And thirdly, because it's using less power, there's less heat. And that's why we have inside our iPhone, we have a 2 nanometer chip in the iPhone 17 Pro that is essentially the same chip that's in a big laptop or a big iMac, and it doesn't have to have a fan, and it doesn't heat up in your pocket, and the battery lasts all day. When you think how incredible that is, it's all due to the fact that the chips can be reduced and reduced. So this company that makes the machines, the major producer of chips that NVIDIA uses, Apple uses, in fact, Apple, because they're so big and so powerful, they have forecast out, and we haven't had a price increase on them yet, even though there's a chip shortage, more or less, which I'll explain. But what happens is the TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, they mainly are in Taiwan. They've expanded to Vietnam, and they're building one here in the U.S. But it takes years to build these chip factories because, believe it or not, they have to survey that there's no vibrations in the land, because this lithography process is so finite that if they were near an airport, the sound waves from an airport could make it so. And what happens when they build chips, it's called yield. When they first make a brand new design of a chip, they manufacture it, and they might have 80% of the chips don't check out. They test them afterwards, and they're not good. So those are relegated to slower speed components or things like that. But basically, there's not enough yield to make it make sense. But then they get up, and then after a while, they have about a 20% failure rate, and that's pretty acceptable. But anyway, there's so many different things that can affect it. The temperature, and these are these ultra clean rooms, temperature controlled. the machine has to be buffered and everything else. It's an amazing because it is so accurate because it's done with lasers. Um, TSMC, Apple has, they forecast, they know how many phones they need. The Macs, they do a lot of Macs too, and they're using pretty much the same chip. But Apple has always been able to be on the cutting edge because they guarantee that we're going to get the next stuff. So TSMC makes newer and better chips. Um, that will come into play maybe this fall or the next fall. There may be a slight increase in price. They think that they're going to offer more features on the phone that will help offset the pricing that they're going to charge for the new phones because there is a race. Everybody in the world wants chips. And TSMC and also Samsung, believe it or not, and a Korean company, they're doing pretty good job of getting chips out. And of course, Intel used to be the leader, but Intel has not been able to get to the smaller print. They were basically at 5 nanometers, and they're doing better. And actually, a wise thing, the US has decided to help back them because it's a a big vulnerability to not produce chips inside the US because Taiwan, if we're so dependent on TSMC that their only outlet is Taiwan, if China decides to take over Taiwan, then we could be cut out of the loop. And that's not just from an economic standpoint, that's from a military and a security aspect. So again, TSMC, they're helping build some of these chip plants. They've given some incentive to Intel, in fact, to the point where the incentive they gave Intel, the US became an investor in Intel. And so rather than just giving them money, they said, okay, well, we're going to help you get better and we get a return because now we're a stockholder. And stuff like that is happening. And I think it's good because we just let's forget the military and the security aspect of it. Look at how big of a deal Apple is for our economy. And that could be disrupted very easily. So it's wise and it's happening. And TSMC, even they're a private company and they're expanding. And then Samsung is expanding in Texas also. And Tesla is doing some wild stuff going forward with AI that between Tesla, between Google, between Microsoft, they're all going to need all the chips that are made. So it's expanding, but it takes a long time to get chips going. So everybody's reaching for it. Therefore, supply and demand, the chip prices are getting more and more expensive. But the biggest bottleneck, if all of these companies go and start producing AI, they're going to need a whole bunch of computers for it. And I'll explain how that works in a second. But what happens is there is not enough electricity in the US that if everybody were getting their chips and we're building, we need between 2 and 3 times the amount of electricity we currently produce in the US. And that's amazing because I mean, it's anyway. So things are happening. Like for instance, I believe it's Microsoft needs to do this. So they are reigniting. Well, igniting is probably not the right word. 3 Mile Island, and they're doing newer type nuclear reactions in it. Tesla has this well, SpaceX and Tesla combined have this wild idea. And so the problem is to make new electricity available, those projects take 5 years minimum. But remember, it's going to take a while to get the chips. So everybody's trying to get in there, and everybody's trying to, it's like everybody has, it's like you go to a town and in a small area, 6 new restaurants open up. Well, at some point there's only enough patrons to support one or two of those restaurants. So I think there's this overbuild and everybody's trying to be first mover, and it's going to settle back down. And recently it's turning out that, believe it or not, they might not need as much compute power as they have because they're changing how bits are happening. In other words, not the software, but in fact the way calculations are made. There right now we have binary, which is it's either on or it's off. It's a 1 or a 0. Well, they're doing another one where there's a third option now, and that can make it happen. So a lot's happening, but I really think Apple Apple was late to do it, and here's the problem. There are only so many good engineers around, and those engineers go to the companies that they think the good engineers go to companies that are making a difference or really are leaders in the field. So since there's only so many engineers around, Apple really just never got a foothold on developing the AI. Therefore, the nice thing is they don't need all this super compute. And what they're doing is they're kind of subcontracting out to Google and say, you've built Gemini, you have these big server farms, you know what you're doing. Why should we duplicate those efforts? And originally, remember, we had ChatGPT and still is our go-to for it. There was an agreement there. But Gemini is kind of behind the scenes been very, very highly regarded. And the idea is that with this interaction with Gemini, we're all concerned about Google because of the intrusiveness and the lack of security and lack of privacy that Google has, because again, they're ad supported. So Apple's agreement with Google is they're giving them $1 billion. Well, what that really means is that means Google's only paying them $3 billion a year now. So it's really, for Apple, it's kind of like, okay, well, we're getting one less $1 billion. So it's costing $1 billion. And they're going to use the Gemini infrastructure. Think about it using their tool. You're renting a tool from them. And with that, the beauty of it is they have put in guardrails, and it's a walled garden. So in this case, Google does not get any of our personal information. So we know Apple's big, big push, because Apple, we buy products from Apple. They don't need to make money selling ads and being intrusive about our demographics and selling that off to other people. So because we are a customer of of Apple, because we pay them money. And so, and especially now with services and everything else. So there's an ongoing income stream there. So Apple says we're going to wall this off, and all your privacy and security stays within the Apple eco area, and it doesn't go out to Google. They're simply using the tool, but the tool is agnostic. They don't know the information. So it's what's called siloed. Think of grain silos, okay? It's contained within that. And I think it's great. And the reasons are Apple is not going to have to, they would invest more than $1 billion a year if they did their own AI. And why not let somebody else develop it and then they can hire these people and it will always be on the cutting edge. Apple doesn't need to continue and invest more money. They're not trying to design the tool or they're not trying to manufacture the tool. They're just using the tool. And it's a lot easier than that. I mean, if you had to go make an electric drill from scratch would cost you a hell of a lot more money than going to Home Depot and buying an electric drill. So I think it's great. They were late. And here's the deal. We just demonstrated what Google search on steroids is by answering Randy's question or hoping to answer Randy's question. And that's fine. But the key that's just the scratching the surface on AI. When you sit here and you look at, like, for instance, Pete McDonough had his question about control center and medical ID and things like that, you would in the future, in the near future, you'll be able to just voice to your phone, hey, please open up and let me work and add or just add this to my medical ID thing. Boom, it sends it. Well, what's he really trying to say? Okay, boom, and it does it for you. It will be integrated into our devices, not just give us search results. And the the and kind of the logistics on how this all works. We have this impressive computer chip inside our Apple device, which, believe it or not, turns out to be because of what's called the neural engine in there. Neural meaning like the brain is a neural network. And it's got many pathways. There's not a single pathway. It goes in different directions. So a neural network is like this encompassing mesh. And we have that in our chips. And that's ideal because that starts the whole AI capability because it can already, when we ask it a question, it can already start to analyze it. And then these big computers I was telling you about that everybody's rushing to get out and put in that are super expensive and take a lot of power are what's called inference. Those are the inference computers. So what happens is when I did on the screen here, it went from there right to the inference computer, and the inference computer does all the work. But if you've got somebody that's kind of like already knows if there was an expert you could talk to before, he would send the right stuff to the inference computer. Therefore, the inference computer can do less work, but it can do well. It can do more work efficiently because it's already kind of it's encapsulated, I guess. And then it comes back from the inference computer and goes again to a supercomputer. So believe it or not, there are people taking Mac Minis and running those as home or business AI. They still have to have an inference computer, but they're essentially doing what we're saying Gemini is going to do for Apple is there's the big tool out there, but back inside, you can do a lot of stuff on your own. That's already being done on your iPhone. If you look at, and I'll give you a perfect example is, if you go into your photos on your iPhone and you look at a picture of a flower, that flower will likely, that picture of a flower or a tree will likely be able to, and you hit the I button, the letter I, and it comes up and it shows you what that flower is. And that's done inside your device. Okay. Again, it's private. And so the beauty of it is it'll process all this. And I just think it's fantastic. Now, I threw a lot of stuff at you, please ask any questions you want on this because it's it, it's it's amazing. So whether it's regular AI, what we're doing, please ask any questions if you have anything because it may have got a little deep. I tried to de-geekify stuff, but it might have gotten a little geeky. So wow, everybody's asleep or they don't have a Al, you got a question?
No, no, just to if you want a little bit deeper dive into AI inference, check out what I put in the chat. It's
As always, he's usually ahead of the game. As I'm saying it, he's already posting it, you guys. But yeah, I
it's
mean,
good. It's a pretty
dig
good
deep.
primer on the concepts, and take a look at it.
That being said,
Yeah.
there are a few podcasts out there, but I got to tell you, one of the there once a week, every Thursday, there are four people who are they're all venture capitalists, and they are all but one are billionaires. I think he's pretty close. Hang on. All in podcast. And there's no advertisements. And it's the All In podcast. So it's uh, a guy from Sri Lanka, Chamath Palapatiya, whatever. He was an early investor in Facebook, got very rich on that. And they are all venture capitalists. Jason Calacanis is this guy right here. Oh, this is Chamath. This is Jason Calacanis. David Sachs, who is a multi-billionaire, and he is actually for $1 or $100 a month or something, is helping the administration with their, and he's part of the government, doing pathways on trying to make sure that cryptocurrency is going to be able to be something in the future as far as its safety, not speculation, but also AI. And the other one is David Freeberg, who's just a financial genius. And these guys get together. It's an hour, hour and a half, um, every Thursday. And I don't watch the show because it's just them talking heads. So you can do it on Apple Podcasts, or I use Overcast, and just subscribe to it. It's free, and I play it at 1.5 or 2x speed, so I can get through it. Actually, it came up. Here's another one. Long, deep uh, podcast, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes three. This one, by the way, is usually a little over an hour. But again, at 2x speed, you get through it in 30 minutes. Lex Friedman is incredible, very diverse topics. He actually is a professor and was one of the early professors about AI, but his isn't just tech, it's kind of all over the place. And those are fantastic. And I really encourage podcasts. I listen to them. I listen to podcasts all the time. If I get them, if I'm at the store shopping for groceries or Home Depot, I have my AirPod in one ear and I'm always listening to some on long drives. I'm doing that, or I'm doing audiobooks. So all in podcast. Excuse me. Okay. Uh, Pete McDonough had a question about medical ID. So let me share my phone on the screen here. In fact, let me see if I can do this. It'll be easier to make my screen dark. Oh, come on. Spinning beach ball. All right. Finder. Oh, well, my screen's supposed to be black, but I don't know what happened to that. Anyway, where is, so you have a thing now, iPhone mirroring, where I can bring my phone up on the screen. And that's interesting. I'm not on that, I guess. Oh, I go up here and okay. So let me center this and make it bigger if I can. All right. So in the phone, there's a thing called medical ID. And when I talked to Pete earlier, badges are what this is called. That's the little thing that you can do. I've turned it off on my mail because it would always be there. So I'm going to go into it's in the health app. So I'm going to click search and type health. And it's the Apple Health app. And I'm going to do here and say medical, oops, medical ID. Oh, well, that didn't do me any good. Well, let me go out of this. So there, I did search medical ID. So it's in settings, medical ID. So this is medical ID. I encourage everyone to go through and make sure you fill this out. Yes, I'm 70 years old just recently and feeling it every day. So, oh, you could add a photo to it if you want. Well, okay, no pregnancy. Oh, it's funny. I have, uh, so my medications, I haven't listed them because it would take a book, but I want a first responder. So first responders know how to get into this. So I say, since I have no allergies, I say I'm allergic to bullets and bombs. And so hopefully when somebody reads that, they go, hey, you know what? This guy's okay. So I go in here. Yeah, I've had a heart attack. I'm on blood thinners, which are a bleed thing. Oh, and this has changed. I'm an inch shorter and I'm about 17 pounds lighter. So I need to fix that. So in this, when you first set it up, it'll have the option of showing on your lock screen. And so I'm gonna try show you if it'll let me do it. So it may not. Yeah, I have to connect my phone differently. So let me just work on that in a sec here. Basically, on your phone, if someone picks up your phone and if they pick up your phone and can't unlock it, in the lower left corner, it'll say emergency. It doesn't allow me to do it with this iPhone mirroring program, but it'll say emergency if you tell medical ID to. First responders know that. So in fact, it comes up and you will have designated someone to be your emergency contact or two people like that. And it'll list all that information for first responders. So, the incredible part about that is first responders know how to get there. By the way, if you're ever in a situation where someone has left an iPhone behind and you don't know whose it was, you can go in and do the same thing in the emergency. But the other thing you can do, if they have Siri activated, you say, uh, you press the button instead of saying, hey, Shlomo. And when you do that, you say, whose phone is this? So let me see if it'll do that. I don't know if I can activate. Whose phone is this? I believe the phone belongs to Ken is what came up. So because your phone's locked, people can't get into it. So, and it didn't say it because I got mine on silent. All right. Any questions about the medical ID? And again, you can put in a lot of information. I personally use a thing called My ID. And this allows you to get in. It's totally free. They do sell stickers that has a QR code, so first responders or anybody can look at that QR code and can go to your page with all of your medical conditions. For instance, I'm on blood thinners, and that's a big deal. So on my ski helmet, I have a little QR code that they provide. They sell me the sticker, but other than that, to have my stuff on there, there's no monthly fee, there's nothing else. I just list that information, and I believe the website is Get My ID. You can wear, they have the bracelets. They have a one thing that I used to have, I don't any longer, is a little metal tag. In fact, let me bring up that. I think this is important because none of us are getting any younger. Funny how that works out. So here's Get My ID. First responders can go in, but the QR code will take you right to it. And so uh, that you can do the plus version of this, but I found that the free version, and I believe that it's still free, works very well. But if you visit the shop, let me open this a little bigger. Come on.
Does the information stay resident on your device?
No, it's because so the medical ID stuff stays on your device, but this stuff is the first responder. What happens on and I've had the QR code sitting on my home screen. Something I used to, but what happens is the QR code just goes to a page and no one has to sign in or anything because you want a first responder or a hospital to be able to access that information. So this is a really neat one. It's a little rubber band that goes around the watch band, any watch band, and just slides on it, and it says flip for my info. So your own personal QR code is on the back side. So what happens is you have your own QR code that goes to your page. So you have all kinds of different ones you can do. You could have it listed what it is. They do some different add-ons. Let's just hit this. I've had it for a long time. Here's add-ons you could put on top of the thing like blood risk, dementia, whatever. And then these are the little stickers I buy for $10. I get a pack of these stickers, and I have one on the backside of my driver's license. I have one on my ski helmet, and I guess I should probably put one in my passport. I just never thought of that. You can have bracelets and stuff. And so again, you're not paying for and there's the little wallet card. So yeah, it's expensive for a wallet card, but you're not paying anything for the service, which I really like. So, and it's Get My ID. The main homepage is Get My ID. So let's see if it says, well, we got to go back to My ID and let's see if there says that it's Just want to make sure it's still free. Nitty gritty. Well, let's go ask. Is the My ID service still free? Free for life. Okay. And the ID Plus, which actually gets you more pages or whatever, but I've never found the need for it. So it's free for life, covers, you put your contacts. You basically have, it's like a web page that has all your stuff in it and it's there. Otherwise, there's an optional prescription. So, any questions on that? I really, really believe in that, especially like since I'm on a blood thinner, if I fall and I'm unconscious, it's important that people get that information. So, and I love that there's a lot of these out there. There's the Medic ID bracelets and stuff, but they usually have a monthly fee because you contact them. So in this case, the medical ID profile page, which I don't mind bringing up mine, but the problem is Google will probably, or YouTube would probably shut off the video because when you show pertinent personal information, they do that. In fact, recently they sent me an email saying, we deleted your, I was doing contacts, the Apple contacts presentation back in 2020 or 2021. It says, we have to delete this because you're showing personal information. I'm going like, okay, yeah, go ahead. So any questions on this or the medical ID? And your Apple Watch, Apple Watch is one of the best things you can do for your health because both the Apple Watch has fall detection. And if you fall, the it will it will beep and it will vibrate your wrist and say, "Have you fallen?" And you can say, "Yes." And it said, "Are you okay?" etc. But if you don't respond, it will call 911 and or who you have on your emergency list on your phone, and that's a big deal. They also detect if you've been in a car wreck and will do the same thing. I've had it when I was skiing and it said, and I didn't take a fall, but I think I hit a little bump or something and it says, "Have you fallen?" And it's like, you do that. So it's a huge deal because if you fall and you're unconscious or immobile, it will call 911 and become a two-way speakerphone without you having to do anything. So yeah, that in itself is worth the price of an Apple Watch. And the Apple
Don't you have to
Watch,
set that up though, that it'll call 911, or is that automatic?
it should default to on. So let's go back to the phone and let's look at the Watch app. Oops, my mistake. Go up here and I'll go to the Watch app on the phone. Okay, that's hold the dial. At call after severe crash. So it's the Watch app on the phone, and you go down to, oops, emergency SOS. So on the phone, you can have it on right here to hold the side button to dial, so you don't have to do anything. And remember, if your phone is with you, it will dial it through your phone. So there's two kinds of Apple Watches, those with cellular connection and those without. So if you don't have the cellular on your watch, if you didn't pay extra for that, and you can tell because there's a red ring around the crown, the round thing. There's a red ring or a red dot that shows that yours is cellular. So if you have a cellular, if you don't have that, it's implicitly linked to your phone. So your phone has to be within Wi-Fi area of you, and and the phone has to be on. It can be asleep. So let me explain how that works. Let's say you go to the gym and they have Wi-Fi there and you're hooked to Wi-Fi. Like here at Sun City, we have a gym on one end and there's like a pavilion and a restaurant on the other end, but it's all on the same Wi-Fi. So I could put my phone in the locker in the gym as long as I had connected it to the Wi-Fi there. And anywhere in that area, it will access my watch, will access the Wi-Fi and connect to my phone. Now, if you're not on Wi-Fi, let's say you're somewhere and your phone has to be within 30 to 100 down to 30 feet away. It connects by Bluetooth. Okay. But if you're in an area where the phone's on Wi-Fi, it'll connect on Wi-Fi. Now, you also have the option when you buy the iPhone, and the watch. I highly recommend that you get the cellular version. If you got the Ultra, it only comes in cellular version. The others you pay 100 or 120 extra for cellular. And it's important that you get the cellular version. Now, if you do not activate a service with the cellular version, your your watch will still reach out if you're doing 911 or SOS. It will always make that call, even if you're not paying for a service. Any device you own can call 911, even if there's not a service connected to it. Okay. So that's the reason to have the cellular Apple Watch, excuse me, not iWatch. Um, the If you pay for the service, it's between $5 and $12 a month from your carrier, and that means that if you go out on your walk, you can leave your phone at home, and you can listen to podcasts, you can stream music, you can do whatever you want. You can take and make phone calls because you have cellular, and it's an add-on to your existing cellular plan. So, but again, get the one with the cellular chip on it, even if you don't want to do it, because in that case where, let's say, your phone is broken, your phone's lost, and you have to call SOS or 911, you can do it. The newer watches and the newer phones can use the satellite network. And by the way, very soon, you'll be able to use the satellite direct to your phone from Starlink, and not just make calls, not just make text, but you'll be able to use the internet. So before I get to your question, Randy, coming down here, this is fall detection, and it's in the Apple Watch app on your phone. And then you can say fall detection either on or off. And when you have it on, always on is an option. And it will alert you if it thinks, and then here it says edit your contacts, your emergency contacts. So and and you could say only on during workouts, but it's so easy to fall no matter where. So Randy, what's your question?
Yes, thanks, Ken. I always adhere to your advice, solid advice on the watch. I do have and I'm just checking on the phone also just to confirm, Apple Watch Series 11 in parentheses GPS plus cellular in paren. But the thing is, it used to always be red, but there's a white circle around the push thing on the watch. On the crown, it's white, but because I always thought it was red also, but you had me check. And so I did buy
And
the
you're on which,
cellular.
like the 11 or something?
Yes, the Apple Watch Series 11 GPS plus cellular. So
Well,
mine,
because it says GPS plus cellular, so it would say GPS only, and that's where it only connects by Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to the phone. And if it says GPS and cellular, you're set, and that's
okay,
surprising. So I'm glad you pointed that out, but I was wrong. So in this case, it says I went into about, oh, and it doesn't say here, but if anybody else is in the Watch app, you can say see, it shows cellular, so it means I have a plan. So if
okay,
anybody else is in the Watch app on their phone, if they don't have a cellular phone, does cellular show up? And secondly, if they do have the cellular watch but no plan, let me know what you find. Ellie,
okay.
Randy, so go ahead, and then we've got Ellie next.
Oh, sure. Second question. When I'm traveling on the watch, this is a battery question. I always forget, how do I change it from 80% charge when I'm just at home in a regular week? But if I'm traveling, I want to always have it set on battery recharge to the full 100%.
Yeah,
Where do I?
I
Yeah.
believe, and I'm not sure because I think it's in, hmm, that's interesting. Because mine kind of does that automatically now. So let's
Okay.
go to this search battery.
Randy, are you talking about going to 80% charge on your watch or on your phone?
On the watch.
Yeah,
Ah,
and I'll discuss the phone in a second.
yeah, because I've managed to do that there.
I wonder if it's actually on the watch itself in
Oh,
setting. And my
oh,
watch is on
could
the
be.
stand right now, so somebody could go into settings on their watch. So go to the settings on your watch and look under battery.
Okay, I'm there.
And do you see in the settings on the watch, is there a battery tab?
There is.
And
And
what is the option there?
uh, battery health, low
Yeah,
power
it
mode.
would be under battery health, I believe,
Oh, oh, good. That's where it
because
is.
that's where it is on the phone.
Okay, so my options now would, are you there? Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
80% or full, right?
Uh, it says optimize charge limit,
That would
optimize
be,
battery charging.
yeah. So you would if to optimize, if that's on, that's going to limit it to 80.
Good. That's it then. Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
that would
Thanks,
be
Ken.
there. And that's a whole nother thing that will be great once AI we'll just tell it what to do. But
Good.
it brings up a good point. And Ellie, before I get to you, I'm going to go to, if it'll let me get here, I can't get back.
But Ken, just a comment, that shows you how important using the search is, even in settings and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think
So,
I think sometimes we just hunt and peck as opposed to think like what's the key word, as they used to call it.
no, and by the way, the search is now down on the phone here in this. And but the old way was you would slide down with your finger right in the center and it comes up with search. So before I go to Ellie, I'm going to show you on the phone, since Randy brought up the battery thing. You go into settings, go to battery, and then like for instance, when I'm especially like when I was just recently in Death Valley, I'm using my phone a lot. It gets very warm. So 80% will make it so your battery lasts, not, excuse me, the life of your battery is better. It will not degrade as fast. So if I go down here, first off, if I click on battery health, my battery health is normal. And this is a fairly new phone. I got this phone I got right when I came back from my round the world trip. So it's only been since December. Cycle count is how many times you've gone from, say, 20% to 80 or 100%. And so those are, if just small ones don't necessarily do it. But when it says maximum capacity, some of you may have them as low as 80% or whatever. What this means is when we charge the phone to 100%, mine will be what the battery life was at 100%. It's 100% of that. If my phone was a year old, this might say 90%. And what that means is that when I charge the phone to 100%, I'm only getting 90% of what it did originally. So one way to just look at that is if you've got a gas tank in your car that holds 10 gallons, after time of use, let's just say sludge builds up, and now the capacity of that tank, even though you fill it all the way, it can only hold 9 gallons. That would be 90%. Okay. So getting back to that, and again, if you reduce your charging most of the time to 80%, then it will help make it so the health of the battery lasts longer. Doesn't necessarily matter for me because I'm on the upgrade program, so I get a new phone every year, but it's still not bad. So that's in battery health. And if we go down to charging, here are the options. Now, it may ask you that when you charge it to 100%, do you want to just do that one time or what? But when I was in Death Valley, I wanted to make sure, because I'm not going to be in my car, I always have mine plugged in. So I keep it 80% most of the time, but if I know I'm going to be using my phone for hours on a day, and we know how important it is for photography, and that uses a lot of energy, I went to 100% and I don't feel bad about that. So then when I got back, I did this and it works well, especially in the new 17 Pro Max. It's got a longer battery life. Now, this is the optimized charging. So it'll do this adjustment if you want, but I'm not at 100%, but what it'll do is if you have a pattern, it won't go past 80 until it's time for you to get up and get active. Now, if you do this charge limit to 80%, I have my phone plugged in whenever it's in my car. I have it on a MagSafe holder. When I'm at home, I have it plugged in. It's sitting here on my desk right now next to me on an easel stand. So, you can see here it's charging. And so it's better for a long battery life. Another thing, if you are traveling, like for instance in Death Valley, there's virtually no cell signal in Death Valley. So to make my battery last longer, I can put it in airplane mode. And airplane mode, because believe it or not, at one time we used to make phone calls. So the first job of the iPhone is to make and receive phone calls. So it's constantly trying to get a cellular tower signal for you, and that it boosts its power to try get a better connection. Well, if you're not going to get a connection anyway because there's no towers around, if you put it in airplane mode, it will conserve your battery dramatically, but let you do other stuff. And the other thing is you can do, like I've done this when I was traveling around the world. My iPhone 16 Pro Max it got a little hot during the day and stuff. So I turned on, so low power mode comes on if your battery drops below 20%, but you can actually turn low power mode on so that it won't in the background refresh stuff. It won't sync with iCloud and do things like that, which will help conserve your battery. And that's important, especially if you have an older phone where your battery health may only be 85%. So those are the things you can do, and it's a big deal, especially in travel. So, all right, Randy, would that cover it for you? Great. Okay, Ellie, go for it. Thanks for sorry for the delay.
No, no, no. I have a question about the battery, and then I have a little update from the news today. But first, the battery. I have an iPhone 11. I don't. I'm retired. I don't use it for heavy duty stuff. And now the battery life is maximum capacity at 72%. And my question is just how important is it really to go out and get a new battery for somebody like me? Can I wait till it's 60%? Or, I mean, I just don't know the parameters there. Why
Great,
at 72% it recommends getting a new battery?
great question. So, first of all, if you have Apple Care on your phone, because it used to be you'd get 2 years of coverage, but now you can do it monthly. So, if you're still on Apple Care, they will do it for free.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay. So and the only place you would ever replace and we'll talk about whether you need to replace it, but the only place you should ever replace your battery is at Apple because there's a lot of stuff that goes on with it and they're really good batteries.
Okay.
So, and I believe it's either 69 or $79 for them to do it. Generally speaking, you make an appointment, you go into the Apple Store
You
app.
froze.
I'm sorry?
Don't do this. Yeah.
You guys, am I still here?
Yep.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Uh, and you look to be froze,
There we
Ellie.
are.
Okay, you're back now, probably, right?
I'm now. Yeah, we had a
Yeah,
glitch.
you froze. Anyway, uh, so you go into the Apple Store app and you make an appointment at the Apple Store, either in Roseville, at the Galleria, or over in Arden Fair. And when you make that appointment, you can go in, and by doing it with an appointment, generally speaking, within an hour or a little more, they'll get it right back to you that way. And
Okay.
I think it's 69 or $79. Now, do you need it? That's totally up to you. It will recover it to the 100% when you do it. Um, if you're thinking about getting a new phone like in the fall, and sometimes the carriers have really good deals, that would be a consideration because sometimes they'll make a great deal with you on it. But I would say, generally speaking, during the day, has it been inconvenient for what you're trying to do to have you'll know that your battery life is reduced. And has it been a problem where you're kind of always looking for a charger?
No, and that's just it. I'm generally back at home often enough to get it charged up, and I have the optimum charging on overnight and all of that. So it seldom drops below, it seldom gets to be an emergency, basically.
Good. And you said seldom. So I would look at two things that would play into this to think of, is it worth that 70 or $80 fee? If you're traveling, that that would be a reason, or if you're away from a charger because you're kind of implicitly tied to a charger. And by the way, you can get a little pocket backup battery that will suffice and does a great job in those cases where you need it. So those little backup batteries that have a cable, or they magnetically, if you have a MagSafe, you have an 11, which I can't remember if the 11 had a MagSafe. I don't think it does,
I don't think
but
so, no.
yeah, they make a little, just a little pocket battery that has a little cable you'd plug into it in case you needed it, and that's going to be half the price of what a battery would be.
Okay.
But the other thing is, if you think about an emergency situation and go from there. Do you have an Apple Watch?
I do not. No.
Okay. Nope, no problem. That would
Yeah.
extend it because knowing that the Apple Watch wouldn't work unless it was a cellular version if the phone goes dead. So it really comes up to you. If it's not an encumbrance, then go
Okay.
for it. But it will retain, it'll go back to that 100%. And Apple won't replace it on Apple Care unless it's 85% or lower.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the area they say that they do. And one
85,
thing that
yeah.
the phone does, it's so we said its first job is to make and receive phone calls. Its second job is to try get you through the day. So what happens is there's software in the phone that says, boy, Ellie's only got 75% capacity. Let's slow the processor down
Ah,
so that she can get through the day. Now, ironically, Apple got sued for that because they didn't make it a choice. Apple's trying to make things better for us, but the idea is, well, they did it without you saying it. Well, yeah, because it's better for the experience, but it will try slow it down and it gives you a little advantage and you may notice it. You may notice the screen not dimming as much and stuff. But remember, that's why it's doing it. But, I would say go by what you feel and see what's up.
well, thank you, and that's good to know. And then on the second topic, the New York Times reports today, and maybe most of you knew this already, but I didn't. But the astronauts are shooting the photos that we're seeing back from the moonshot with their iPhones, which
Oh
were
my gosh.
issued officially by at NASA to them in March before they were quarantined. They're not the only photo. They're not the only cameras on the orbiter, but they're the ones they're using. And there's a video of it floating around in the cabin.
That's great. Thanks for that. And that was Wall Street Journal,
No, it was the New York Times. And
New York Times.
It's in this morning online. Yeah. Mhm.
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it's kind of like when I travel, 95% of my photos are, well, 98% of my photos are done with the iPhone. I'm going on a safari in July, and that's going to be the tough one because you need the long lenses. But
Oh, yeah.
uh, actually, with an iPhone, I have a mount that allows me to put a spotting scope in
Oh,
front of
wow.
my iPhone. I did that we did a winter trip during COVID to Yellowstone, and the guide had a spotting scope, and we were able to put the iPhone on it, and it's pretty amazing. But I'm limited. This trip's going to be tough for me. I'm limited to 33 pounds total luggage. So,
Well, maybe
um,
you can.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, because we're on a small plane in Kenya.
Right.
Um, Back to the iPhone again. You can get a little battery that'll help and just as a standby, but it really just comes down to it. The other thing I would mention is your phone is probably what, 4 years old or so,
Yeah. At
and
least.
yeah, and so there's also a thing when you go to get a new phone, there's some implicit trade-in value, and it's usually more than you would expect from your carrier. And carriers are doing a good job. It used to be if you're a new customer, you get all this great stuff. Well, they're also trying to they want to retain their customers. So doing a good job of giving deals to that. But at some point, your phone gets so old that it has less trade value. The sweet spot is in the 3 year range because age of the phone versus what trade in is. So always look at that as a consideration, and your carrier might have some incentives for you to update. And the newest iPhone just came out. It's the one with the two lenses. Gosh, help me out. It's not the SE anymore. I guess it's just the 17E, I think it is, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. And then in the fall, the new phones will come out. And of course, then the existing phones will be discounted by $100 or more than that. So, all right, Barbara and then Bev. Go ahead, Barbara.
I've got a battery question too. I have a MacBook Pro, and normally I use it just sort of as like a
As a
power.
desktop, yeah.
Yeah, because I've got, separate keyboard and mouse and monitor and stuff. But when I want to use it on battery, it will automatically stop at 80%. And first of all, I don't understand if it's not plugged in, how does it stop at 80% and still work? That's the first thing. But my second question is, if I want to maintain the battery, because I used to have a PC and I didn't use it on battery for long enough that, the battery then became, it wouldn't work. Is that true on Apple, so that you want to, if you usually have it plugged in, unplug it and run on battery for a while? And second, how does it stop at 80% and still work?
Great question. So, so we're talking about a MacBook Pro, which is what I'm showing you here. If I click on battery, and this is fairly new,
Uh-huh.
but I have some options in here.
Yeah.
Again, low power mode, very similar to how we talked about the iPhone could be on low power mode. And you really don't need that, but you could say, oh, never, or only on battery, or only on power adapter. That's low power mode. That you don't really need to worry about. Battery health, let's see. So this is an M1, and let's see if it tells me. It doesn't even tell me my battery percentage on this. But here is charging. And what? It won't. So when I hit the little I under charging, mine says 100, and I should actually change that. Oh, but it's optimized to reduce battery aging. So mine is currently at yeah, 100%. So I'm going to put that down to 80 while we're here. That's great because mine's plugged in the majority of the time.
Well, I
And
don't
when
have
I travel,
time.
I would want to do it. So you're concerned about this 80%.
Yeah, what's interesting is that mine doesn't actually have the same choices that yours does.
Are you running the newest version, Mac OS 26?
That's not-
Ah, look at this. My battery of my 4 or 5 year old, see, maximum capacity. So at 100%, I'm at 85. And these batteries are considerably more expensive than the iPhone. So I'm going to go up here and say, uh, how much is it for a replacement battery for an M1 14-inch MacBook Pro directly from Apple installed? $249 out of warranty, but I believe I'm under Apple Care, so I don't know. Oh, Apple Care, if it's under, so under Apple Care, it's got to get down to 80%. So let's go back to Barbara's question. Let me see here. So the 80% means you have think of it like the fuel gauge in your car.
Okay.
So even though my battery can only charge to 85% of what it used to, and that's at 100%. So it's the equivalent of if in your car you've got a 10-gallon gas tank, and when you fill it to 10 gallons, it sloshes out because you don't have a cap on it, let's say. So you decide you're only going to fill it to 8 gallons, and that way it won't slosh out. Well, in this case, it's saying for battery life, for longevity, for those of us that have it plugged in most of the time, only charge it to 80% because what happens in the battery, the old style, the old nickel metal hydride batteries, they used to say, charge it, let it go deplete, and then charge it all the way up to exercise. So it's like ladies that wear high heels all the time. Their Achilles tendon gets shorter because they don't stretch it out. Well, they used to say, stretch out the battery and exercise it. Well, that's not the case with lithium ion. Lithium ion batteries, and believe me, because those of us that have electric cars, we have a lot of batteries and we're concerned with that. When it gets below 20% and gets above 80%, it starts stretching the outer limits of that battery and puts a little more strain on the battery. For instance, if I charge my Tesla to 100%, I need to drive it within a few hours because the battery because of heat or something, it doesn't have room to expand. So the idea is that you only do that if you want to, unless you have a Model 3 that has what's called an LFP battery. You can charge it to 100% all the time. It's a different chemistry. So the idea is from 20 to 80%. And now the lower end of the range is probably not as hard on it as going to 100%, but it's the 100% and staying at 100% that creates an issue because of temperature changes and it needs to expand and things. So I should have probably, I would have better battery health rather than the 85%. Um, yeah, on my MacBook Pro. But same thing with iPads. You have the same settings as it is on the iPhone. So you're charging it to. Let's go back to the gas tank. You're only putting 80% in it because it's helping the longevity of the battery. But yeah, let's say your battery life was 10 hours, it'll only be 8 hours. But if you're going to go on a plane and you're not going to want to plug it in there and do all that, go ahead and charge it to 100% when you're doing that. But if you're using it as a desktop, go to 80%, but then just got to remember, oh man, I'm going to a seminar and I'm going to be there for 5 hours, charge it ahead of time. And the nice thing is, most of the MacBooks these days, whether the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, um, not the new Neo, you can have a MagSafe charger that you use at home, but also if the Apple computer has USB-C, you can use a USB-C charger. Now, the one from your iPhone won't give it diddly worth of power to do it, but a bigger one like an Anchor one or things like that. For instance, when I travel all over the world, I did not take my big Apple charger in the MagSafe because I have a USB charger from Anchor that has multiple USB outlets and it puts out enough power. It will charge my MacBook Pro a little slower, but I just don't have to take an extra device and it's a simple USB-C cable. So that's how to do that. And iPads are the same thing. So, by the way, when we talk about charging bricks,
Yeah.
the iPhone, when they used to ship them with the phone, is a little 1 inch by 1 inch cube, right? And that little cube would be okay for charging an iPhone, but it will not charge and let you use an iPad. It's not enough power. It was 1 amp. So the charger that came with an iPad was 2 amps. So you could charge your iPhone with it. That was fine. It charged twice as fast, but it was also for that. Now, the ones that comes with the USB-C charger, that actually the ones you get with the laptops is a bigger, heavier duty one. And now they're USB-C, and you can put a USB-C cord out of it or the MagSafe cord out of it, and that will charge any of your devices faster, and it won't be bad for them. Okay, it'll regulate it. I choose to get an Anchor device, and in fact, the Anchor device I have has two USB-A, the old style USB, and two USB-C. And the coolest part is I can plug in a regular 110 outlet to the two spots on it so I can further have stuff. And the whole thing has one US plug. So when I go to plug it in and I'm going to be in Kenya. So when I put in the African adapter, I only have to adapt at one time and I have all these other options out of it. And that's wonderful because you don't have to have an adapter for everything. And again, those won't work for hair dryers or curling irons because they aren't built to run on 220, 204, whatever it is.
So
So
follow
did that answer it for you, Barbara?
a question about what you said. So when I've unplugged my MacBook Pro and it stops at 80%, you don't really need to go below the 80% like you're saying you used to have to do in the old days. It's fine for it just to stop at 80% and I can plug it back in when I don't need to move it around.
Well, actually, though, the other thing is if you've got it set at 80%, you don't have to even unplug it. It will stop charging.
Uh-huh.
So you don't, you're thinking like an old PC. This is Apple. They're really good about this stuff. And what they do here is mine, when you set it to charge only to 80%, not the optimized, but the actual set it to that,
Mhm.
it will stop at 80%. And you'll even notice that at some point the little charging icon won't even show up there because it doesn't need to charge. It's at 80%. And what it'll do is it'll go down to 78 or 79 and it'll just charge itself back up to 80 each time. There's no need and no advantage to unplugging it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Great. Good questions. Great questions today. Bev, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to comment that I got back from 28 days in Africa, Southern Africa, on a safari, and I just took my iPhone 17 Pro, and I am not the photographer, Ken, that you are. Um, but I put one picture in and then another one in as a file in the chat. Uh, because and Kenya may be very different animal. I was in Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, and Botswana. But the animals we saw, we got so close. The lions, this particular lion was a little further, but we were sometimes as close as 20 feet to animals. Now you may be seeing more of the Great Migrations and that may be a different situation, but I left my camera basically on the optical lens, and then I cropped down to
Right.
bring it in closer. My understanding was that was better than using the iPhone zoom lens to do the cropping kind of in the camera already. I don't know. Actually, I'd be interested in your opinion on whether one stay in optical and crop down. My understanding was there was more pixel content if you stayed optical.
Yeah, good point on that. So let's address this. So, and you have a 17 Pro Max,
Not a Max 17 Pro.
17 Pro. Okay, well that's the same. You have three lenses.
Yeah.
So this is what discouraged me when I did my round the world trip. I was on the 16 Pro and it came out while I was traveling, but I didn't upgrade while I was traveling because in these other countries, if I'd gone to the 17 Pro or Pro Max, they have a physical SIM card slot, which means you have 5% less battery.
Oh,
And in the previous cameras, the Pro cameras, the 14, 15, 16, the 1x lens is 48 megapixel, which is a lot of megapixels, which means you can blow it up and it's very good, high quality. Starting with the 17 Pro, all three lenses, the 0.5, the 1x, and the 4 and 8, but the zoom, they are all now, well, the zoom is a little different. Uh, but they're 48 megapixel. But how they do the zoom to get 8x, they're actually downsampling the pixeling. It's done with pixel manipulation. But at 4x, it's full 48 megapixel. And what a megapixel is, you guys, think about it this way. So like there's my Sony camera does what's called 33 megapixels. And the it's essentially the finite how many dots are in the screen because you're taking a picture and it's the same size on all these different cameras, but it's how many dots are in there, and that has to do with the sensor. And what that is each dot, of course, takes up more data, but it's also when you go to blow something up, if you were to make a canvas print or more particularly a metal print or something like that, or cropping like Bev mentioned, where you've got this shot, but you want to zoom in. It has more dots in it. Now, with an iPhone, you have usually just the integers. You have 0.5, 1, 1x, and 2 or whatever. It is not advised, although it's changed a little, to use your pinch to zoom, to zoom in like that, because as Bev pointed out, it's called optical. You want to use what is native for that lens. And then after the fact, in photos, you can edit that photo and you crop it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what
And
I was
that
doing.
and that's important because otherwise it's interpolating and it does a great job. And remember again that on the new 17 Pro Max, you should have an option of well, actually, let me see if it shows up here. I will go to the camera and you can see here. So I have 0.5, that's native. 1x is native, that'll be 48 megapixel. 2x, I don't think is, but I think it's 4. I'm not sure in here. Al will have the thing about the lenses, but it goes up to 8x. But the other thing is, as a photographer, I'm still going to take a big camera because there's times when you want to do a slow like shutter release and things like that. And there are apps you can do in the phone. By the way, I have Milky Way photos that I've taken with the iPhone. Um, I can go in here really quick and show you. There's a Milky Way photo with the iPhone. And the shutter was open for 25 seconds. Oh,
Wow.
wait, excuse me. That's my Sony. I lied. See there, it's so good I can't tell. I was taken with both.
Bev, on your picture, which is very good, how far away were you from that cat?
Uh, that one I don't remember, but at times the animals are so used to the safari vehicles. Some lions, and we had a lioness that was apparently she had new cubs. They go off for 3 months and kind of bring the cubs up. Then they introduce the cubs to the pack, to the pride.
This is one of Bev's here.
And that was we were within 20 feet.
Wow.
How many did you put up here, Bev?
I'm sorry?
How many photos did you upload to the chat?
One came in as a picture, and this I don't know why.
Oh, I
Sometimes,
found the other one.
and the other
Yeah.
was a file, and that's a question of sometimes when I drag over, it drags as a file like that you have to then click on, I think, in Zoom. Other times when I drag into chat, it showed up as the picture. I don't know what I'm doing differently.
Well, it could be with using what's called HEIC.
The same ones out of the picture, out of the photos, and then I have learned that one can drag more often. It's an underutilized thing that I do. Let's see. I may
So
have
you guys look at this. This is with the iPhone.
Isn't that gorgeous?
And you look, I mean, you look at detail here. So let me show you a little trick here also.
this one that I'm sending you now, Mary, was the picture before I cropped.
Okay.
So we were still pretty darn close.
So this is a cropped picture that we're looking at.
That one, the one I just
I
entered
mean, the
into.
one Ken is showing is a cropped picture.
Yes,
Well,
that's
this is the photo that the one on the left is from.
and then the next pic I just put into the
See, and
chat.
that's pretty amazing. And look at the detail. Like, you've got a little bit of the whiskers and look at the hair and here and stuff.
That was probably a live photo because on some of these I started using the live photo and I don't know if that degrades it at all, but because
Well,
getting the head to go to the right spot, or the tail flicking where you wanted the tail
Right.
to flick.
I think there's
So
some compression with Zoom as well. It probably looks much better on your screen than what we're seeing.
Yeah.
yeah, obviously. So and so the other thing is let's talk about live photo versus the other. Oops, I don't need to do that. So live photo means that it's taking multiple full version photos. And it would be like, in this case, you mentioned the flicking of the tail, or, somebody's got their eyes shut and blinks or whatever. And you can pick of the live photos which one you want to do. A good example is you've got four people and you want them to jump. Well, you want to try to get it when all their feet are off the ground at the same time. So that's when you would use live photo. But what I want to show you is something that could turn a photo like this into a real, a picture into a real photo. So I'm going to go into the phone, and I know we're getting a little astray here, but hopefully everybody finds this instructive. So I'm going to close that. We'll hide others just for now. Great. So I'm going to go into my photos, and I'm going to go into my collection, and I'm going to go to live photos. So these are photos I did as live photos. And I just want to show you what the live photo. So again, we talked about people jumping up and down, right? And that's an effect. And I don't know how good this photo is. So you can see this is a waterfall up in New Zealand. And so if I go a live photo, now you've got to stabilize it pretty well. And when I do a live photo, I can go do a long exposure and look what happens to this photo. See how first of all, live photo, it will crop it when I go to a long exposure. But see how it does this misty thing to that. And I'll go back to live just so you can see. So that's an effect that's very, very powerful with waterfalls. With fountains, it's also an effect that works really well. Let me get a different one here. This one might work. Okay. So this is Mono Lake. And if I go from a live photo to a long exposure, notice how it made those waves less. So it works well for that too. Now I am shooting this on a tripod because I was doing sunrise. And so that's a way to do live photos. Oh, here will be this one was in this should work pretty well. So here's one that's live. And now I'm going to do long exposure and look what it does with this photo. And an effect that some people don't like, but look at how mystical that looks. So let me show you another phone trick. So that's live photo. Now I'm going to go to portrait mode because portrait can do some unique stuff. And actually, here's a great example. So this background here, blurring out the back is called bokeh or bokeh. It's Bokeh. And what it does is it limits your exposure. So if I go here, let me look where it is. No, I don't want spatial scene. So if I go to edit, So if we look at this photo, I've done it in portrait mode, but when you go to take a photo, it'll show up in yellowish. And what I can do is, it's called the f-stop. So in regular cameras, expensive cameras, you can only do this when you shoot it. But look at this. After the shot, I can go in here and well, come on, move. Let me move. Ah, darn it. It won't. Oh, well, see, I've clicked back there, and look, now Truman is in focus. Or now I make it so this is in focus, or I want this pot in focus,
Mm,
or I want this weird one in focus. So what that does is, and that's if it's in portrait mode.
mm,
Other cameras, you have to format the picture like this, but the Apple camera takes so much of it that it's just amazing. Now, if it would let me move this, and I just don't understand. What'll happen though is if we look at a regular shot, like this shot, see everything's in focus. That's just a snapshot. So that's kind of boring. So if I go to this photo and I click adjust, and this you can do on the Mac or on the other, and I'm going to say let's focus on just this. Well, the problem is it's not doing it, but I can change the depth. It just will not let me do it. Yeah, it won't let me slide this for some reason because I can't do my phone, but you would slide this one way or the other. If you slide this to a higher number, everything's in focus. And if I slide it to a lower number, only this will be in focus. Everything else is done out. Or let's say I get this person. Well, I'll do the telephone pole. So see how the telephone pole is in focus and there's less focus here. To be able to do that after the fact is just phenomenal. So I will hit cancel. I don't want to change that. This was Teapot Junction in Darwin, uh, on the way into Death Valley. It's kind of cool. We had our own little, everybody hangs a teapot there. So anyway, that's using uh, portrait to make things in the foreground and in the background be different with, say, bokeh. And it works really well for a person like this. This was on in this is in Bali, if I'm not mistaken. So if I go here, and we really want her to be the standout, so I say focus on her and her face. Or if I do this on the background, see how she's less prominent. But see how it took all this information in?
Wow.
That doesn't work on a regular camera. And it makes a snapshot a photo. There was an ad from Apple years ago that was funny, that when they first started developing this portrait, it wasn't as good as it is now. The thing called bokeh or bokeh. Actually, here's a good one. So I can have it be, uh, there were three ladies were out to lunch, and the one lady's showing photos on there, and they show, oh yeah, here's a photo of my kid with your kid in the background. And she said, look at this. I can slide this and make the kid in the background blur. And the lady says, you just bokeh'd my kid, and her kid was no longer in it. So if you see here, I've clicked on the mountains in the background, and now these are blurry in the foreground. If I click here, look at that, and you get a whole different effect out of it.
Wow.
And it's just absolutely amazing that you can do this. And believe it or not, there's a wonderful video of Apple when they came out with what was called cinematic. And cinematic is there's this murder mystery that Apple made up, and it was the guy in front, and then there's people in the background, and like you do in a dramatic movie, they're concentrating on the people in front or the guy in front, and he's in focus. Then the person in the back speaks, and they're in focus, and it goes back and forth. And actually, you after the fact, which is unheard of in video, it takes this $20,000 camera to do this, and it does it on the iPhone in cinematic effect, and it actually does it naturally depending on who is speaking, but you can always override it. So these are little things that make it just so precious, and all the iPhones do this in one way or another. So again, here we'll see if this works. Do the lily in the front, do the statue in the back. Bokeh used to be on a regular camera, it's usually whatever's in front's in focus and what's in the back is not. And with the iPhone, and I actually sometimes take the photo where when I go to take the photo, I make sure this photo is in focus here, and then I tap it on the next photo to do that. But now it turns out you really don't need to do both.
But you have to be shooting originally though in portrait mode, correct?
Yeah, and it's starting to do it more automatically. So when you go into a portrait like this, you can't be right directly next to this. You have to be a little bit away, and it will light up and say yellow in portrait. I choose portrait mode, and then when it'll do it, I think it's 4 or 6 feet, something like that. But this is where you guys go out and play with it, because it's just, this was at a Buddhist temple, and
Yeah, that was a real handy for those that don't know where when you're on a regular one, not portrait, but tapping on that little square and getting the focus directed and also adjusting the focal or the f-stop, opening it up or closing it down on some shots was really.
and I'll show you what we're talking about.
My biggest problem was if I didn't have if the square was too close over to the right, then it was selecting other things and it would not select the lighten or darken, changing.
Yeah, so let me show you what she's talking about here. And I'm going to connect.
And on the trip, it was everyone. It was only 12 of us, but all 12 of us had Apple phones, and the new AirDrop feature where you didn't have to have them in contacts and just go into settings, general, and that was just a real terrific perk for
Well,
sharing photos. Because sometimes, someone would be in a position on the vehicle that was unobstructed compared to those in the back.
so unfortunately, it's not going to let me connect. Let me get a cable. Actually, hang on, I can use reflector. I have 2 ways to skin a cat. I'm on the same Wi-Fi. So, reflector. On. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to go into the camera. Yeah, I've got all these cables here, but let's just concentrate on this. So I'm on 1X, and
We're
let's
not
just
seeing
say
anything yet,
you're not seeing my screen.
just a black canvas.
Is that anybody seeing my screen?
Well,
It's black.
Hmm. That's weird. Oh, I think I know why. So let's turn this off. Reflector. Try this one. Are you seeing my phone now?
Yes, screen mirroring.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So in this case, I've got my camera here. And if I want to, so there's focus and there's light. So actually, I'll just do it this way. So like here's some paper, and that's pretty bright. And then back here is kind of dark where my cable mess is. So there's focus and there's brightness. So if I go here and I press and hold, see how it bounds like that? Normally, if I'm just going to do one shot, I tap on it and it adjusts the brightness. If I go over here and tap on this, it made everything bright. And if I tap here, notice how the dark area on the right, do you guys see my cursor?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. On the right, it gets darker. So if I tap on this, it got brighter, and then look, it oversaturates this. But sometimes you want to do that. So what you do is you tap one time, and then it's kind of dynamic. You adjust, and it just happens for that one photo. But if I'm on this, and let's say I'm going to focus on that stamp, I press and hold, and now you saw it go bing, bing, bing. I'll do that again. I go off of it. I go here and I press and hold. It goes bing, bing, bing. But here's the coolest thing you can do. If you look right here and see this sunshine logo, all I have to do, I'm gonna move my finger up and down on the side here, and I can make it darker, or I can make it lighter. And I'm sliding the slider up and down. Now, when you're doing photographs, all this white area that's overexposed, you'll never be able to get back. But on the other hand, if you underexpose stuff in editing, you can bring it brighter. And I'll show you that in a second. So right now, it's not overexposing the white. So I'm going to take this photo. Now I'm going to go to that photo. I don't know why it did it in landscape, but when I go to that photo, I'm going to tap edit. There we go. Now, I have the little magic wand, which is an incredible thing. And that says, oh, make it better. And sometimes it makes it better, sometimes not. You can kind of see how it brightened it up, but didn't overexpose it. And remember, I had underexposed it. So what I do here is I go down here and I'm in adjust down here on the left. And now what I can do is I can adjust my total exposure and do that. I could overexpose it. And if I don't like what I just did, I go up here and hit undo. But what I'm going to do here is, oops, undo. I'm going to go over to shadows. So think about you're taking a picture of somebody and they're wearing a baseball cap and you don't see their face very well. So what I can do here in shadows, and here's how I use this adjustment bar at the bottom. I go one direction and then the other direction and then figure out where I want to go. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to slide it this way And look at that. I can now see the cables and even the desktop without overexposing the white. And then I could go back this way, and that's darker. That gives you a surreal kind of effect. But the whole idea is I could max out shadows, and look how well defined even the wall back here that's usually darker and everything else. And this is not overexposed. So shadows work really well to eliminate shadows. Okay. So that's, as Bev mentioned, the thing to press and hold. Okay. I'm gonna get out of that. We'll leave that up. And then I wanted to go back to Bev's photos, because in a case like this, if this had been portrait mode,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of do this after the fact in some of the programs, it basically, to make this stand out better, this would do that. But to be honest, Bev, you may have been too far.
Mm.
So I'm just saying
Far to use portrait mode, or can you use portrait mode at infinity?
I don't know, and you'd have to play with it, because I think that uh, so you can try it. I haven't experimented enough with the new portrait that it's better, because you used to not be able to do front or back too. So in this case you've got this tree, but let's say it was a bird in the background. Well, you'd want that to be in focus. But what happens is, when you go into edit, if it was in portrait mode, there'll be a little F that gives you the f-stop. So, oh, that's the one I can tell you. Let me go back to that. We'll go to a photo, and we know, oh, this is one I did a long time ago. So we're going to edit this guy. Oops. Ooh, yeah. So if I go to edit, and let me hide others. Okay, so I did this specifically to show this to someone. This was on a friend of mine's boat, and this is a long time ago on portrait mode. But if you look, when I can adjust the slider at the bottom, here is extreme bokeh. I want to lessen it. So see how the background's blurred. With no bokeh, everything's in focus. And that's what the camera does normally. But to me, that's just not as good a picture. But if I give it some bokeh, and I'm going to see if, even though this is an old photo, it will let me touch the back. Oh, it kind of doesn't stay. So I'm going to hit cancel, discard changes. And now I'm going to show you one other one on this next photo. So this is, when you're in portrait mode, you have an option. Oops, I don't want spatial scene. Hang on here. Come on, Ken. I go down here and hit edit. Now, in the upper left, I have options on portrait, and normally it would be natural light, and this is where I can adjust the bokeh. This is all the same photo, and this is after the fact. That did a little difference. That's studio light, then contour light. And then the big one is stage light. And look at this, it isolated just that. And then stage light in monochrome. And you have all these effects that are done after the photo. So stage light was pretty remarkable there. So cancel, discard changes. All right, that's a lot of stuff. Cool. Any questions on that? And God, here's another great example of a long exposure. This is in Iceland. And this, I did it with my big camera, but you notice the waves, that effect of the waves. Here's what the live photo looked like. That cool. But I specifically did a long exposure I made it a live photo, and then since I took a live photo, I did that. And to me, that's a better shot. Oh, here's another one that you'll really see the
Were
difference.
you on a tripod when you did that beach one, Ken?
The beach, yeah. So what I do is whenever I have my big camera set up, and I have a bar on my tripod, and I have my iPhone mounted on the left, and I have my camera mounted over the center of the tripod, and they're always facing the same way. And so, and the reason you want to do this is, especially like the Milky Way shots, but these shots, this photo was, so if you look at, oh, it doesn't show on the screen, sorry. This was a, wow, it was a pretty fast shot, which is surprising. That shouldn't be. Oh, wait, this is a live photo. So that's why it's not, yeah. Uh, so the live photo, what it does, so I believe it's a live photo takes a half second before and a half second afterwards. So it's like a second long one. So if you had any movement, it's not going to do really well. But the phone compensates for that pretty well. You want to hold it. And the best thing to do is to go up against something and put your phone against it so it doesn't move, because it's really hard for us to be totally stable. So by putting it on a tripod, it it makes it so that it's stable the entire time of the live photo. Think of live photo as a video, but it really has full photos on each one. But I'm going to go here and make this long exposure and look at the difference. See the dry, this was sunrise on Diamond Beach, and it just made a, you wait for the wave to come all the way in, and then as it washes out. And that, yeah. So,
Nice.
and that it's just, it makes amazing things. So anyway, that's that's where uh, and you can't do, yeah, you're not, I mean, you can't do that with a regular camera. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. So again,
And
the stabilization is important on the live camera. It's not as necessary. I got to show you this photo. This was from Death Valley. These are, we're up on a hill. These are people that are in our group. And this is the water at Manly Lake. And you can see they look like they're walking on water. It's just amazing. This is usually a dry lake. It happened a few years ago, and it really happens maybe once a decade where there's enough rain. So, what was the question there?
yeah, when you say take a live photo, where is that setting when you're taking a photo?
Sure, hang on one sec here. So if I'm in camera and I up in the upper right corner up here,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about this. So RAW 48, we have night mode because it's dark. Night mode allows you to take a photo where it'll gather more light. In this case, it would be 1 second. If it was super dark, this can go up to 30 seconds. It normally is going to be around 4 or 5 seconds if it's handheld. The camera, if it's sitting on something that's very stable or on a tripod, it will sense that it's not moving, and it can expand this to 30 seconds. And that's how I get Milky Way shots, because it's on a tripod and it says, do this night shot for 30 seconds. And and by the way, the little indicator down here means it's in macro mode, which is done for close-up stuff. But the lightning bolt, you should always have your flash off. But if I go over here and I tap on this grid, now I can select live mode, and you'll notice it's on live mode. and it shows, well, it's funny. Only when you take the picture does it say it was a live photo. Okay.
Okay.
So again, it used to be up here, there was uh, oh, I'll show you what the disk looks like. If you're not on iOS 26, it was one like this. And it says it's automatic. So I'm going to turn it off because I don't, oops, I want it off. So there's three toggles: automatic, on, or off. Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with the flash: automatic, on, or off. I think if I press and hold. So the other ones is the timer. This would be so you can delay it. Here's another trick is if you have an Apple Watch, you can be in all your photos because you use camera remote on your Apple Watch and you have your phone on a tripod and you're taking a picture of the group. You're back in the group and you actuate it with the Apple Watch. Just make sure that you have a 3-second delay. So what it is you can drop your hand so they don't see it. Styles, I don't recommend. These put filters on it. You can always do that stuff afterwards. But remember earlier where we changed the exposure? If I'm in a bright situation, a lot of times I will set my exposure to underexpose it a little bit. So because I'd rather have it underexposed than overexposed.
Yeah.
And that stays consistent. And then the other one is down here on night mode. So if I press night mode, there's night mode max is 4 seconds because when I tapped it, it was moving. But let's see. So if I put it on, so here's how it is. There's no night mode, which is normally what I do. And the other thing is I rarely do night mode because if you're in a museum and you're taking a picture and the light isn't very good, you don't want it to go in night mode because you're going to be moving it a little bit and it gets blurry. And you definitely don't do flash because the phone has such a good light sensor that you don't need flash. You should have flash off except in very certain circumstances. And flash only works for about 5 feet. So these people I see at concerts and they're back in the 260th row and they think their flash is going to do it. That's terrible because your phone expects this to be real bright and it's setting the sensors, and then the flash just gets all the air or the smoke that's in front of you and it doesn't do anything for the stage. If you're taking a picture of someone and they're wearing a hat and it's a little shaded, that can use as a fill. But remember, it's only good for 3 to 5 feet. But the sensor is so damn good that you don't have to worry about it. So the timer can be 3, 5, or 10 seconds or off. And again, that's the delay. Like when I have it on my tripod or if it's sitting on somewhere, I will tap that. And that way when I'm not shaking it while I'm doing it. When you use the Apple Watch, the camera remote, what'll happen is the camera will flash 3 times as a countdown, or 3 seconds, so you know the picture's happening. Night mode, again, I keep it off most of the time unless I'm using it on there. So there's automatic, which depending on how dark things are, if I put my hand over this, notice it goes to 3 seconds. And it means we only need a 1 second night mode here. If it was brighter, it wouldn't go on at all because it's on automatic. But if I get it too dark, 3 seconds is the max. But if I go to max, now watch what happens. I'll try not to jiggle it. Oh, it went higher. It went to 8 seconds. So it's because I'm slightly jiggling. When that's on a tripod, max will go to 30 seconds. So I'll turn that off. And again, those are all by going up here. It's just the same. Oh, and with the new in iOS 26, down here, they've kind of changed this menu. I'm not real happy about it. But if I press and hold, I then get my other choices. Time lapse, slow-mo, cinematic, like we talked about, which is video and photo, and then portrait. And even though everything's close, it can probably do portrait. We'll try it.
Where did you press and hold, Ken?
You press and hold on, hang on, let me get back to it. When you're in photo, so let me go out of camera, come back to camera, and now, oh, you can just slide it. I don't have to press and hold.
Okay.
Slide to whatever you want. Now in video, I should point out, I'm going to start a video here. And first of all, you guys, everybody does vertical videos. The problem is that's great on TikTok, which I'm sure none of us use a lot of, but any picture you do is always in portrait. Any video you watch is in portrait mode, okay? Because, and think about this, any screen we have is built just like Ken is. It's wider than it is tall. And that's what you want. Because otherwise you get these letterboxing, it's called, on the side. So I'm going to do a quick little video here, and you'll notice right up here, there is a little button. That takes a single shot while it's doing video. Okay. Another thing you should do is do not, once you start a video, you'll notice how the numbers are lined up this way.
Mhm.
If I turned mine, if I start it in this mode and it's taking the video, it turned the light on, and I go this way, it's not going to shift the video because look at the numbers.
Mhm.
You'd have to stop and do it. Okay, we're going to end that. So let's go look at a couple of these things. There's the video. See, messes up. It won't rotate. You have to start it again. So I'm going to go back to this. That was the photo of the video. Let's go back to this one. So this one, I took it in portrait mode, remember? Let's do this. Well, first of all, I don't want styles. I want adjust. And unfortunately, I don't think it did it. No, it doesn't allow me to do. No, it doesn't. But here's cleanup. So here's cleanup. I'm going to tell it to eliminate. Actually, we'll try to eliminate this area right here. Or actually, let's eliminate this cable. So I'm preparing cleanup. It's got to download the stuff to do. Now, it's saying, do you want to eliminate this stuff up here? But I'm going to say just eliminate that. Well, it's going to eliminate part of that other cable. Boom. So if I didn't like it, I can undo it. So let's do it this way, right to there. Yeah. It's not working well. This is not a good example. Let me find a photo that's got a good thing to do. Oh, this is going to be tough. I'm going to say clean up. This was from the side of the road yesterday. So let's see what happens. Look at that. It tried to fill in with grass. So we'll cancel. We'll go find another photo. Oh, let's try this. let's get rid of me. We'll see what happens.
Ken, how do you get those four options at the bottom here? You're in the photo?
Great question. Give me 1 second. I'll show you how that
All right.
happened. Sorry, I kind of glossed over that. So I don't know if it'll do me very well. Because we'll see if it creates the background. We don't, nah. So let's go back, cancel. Okay, I don't think it shows on the screen. Hang on here. It's hard because so if I grab a photo, and again, I'll look for one that we're going to do. Here'll be one we'll try. So for some reason, it's showing me landscape mode, but and it won't let me do this on the camera. And it's really weird because it's not rotating. So what you do is when you open up a photo, at the bottom everybody go to photos and just grab any photo. And I'm sorry because it doesn't display it here because what happens is it's in display mode.
Okay.
So when you see a photo at the bottom, you should see, if you hold your phone upright in portrait mode, and then at the very bottom on the left-hand side, there's a box with an arrow coming out of it. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So if you press that, first of all, that's your share screen. And what that is you can copy the photo, you can text it, you can airdrop it. Hit the X in the upper right-hand corner, and now you're back. The second one is the heart. You can make it a favorite. The next one is the information, and that doesn't show on here either. And that's pretty weird that it shows that. So the information is what camera it was, where you took it, things like that. Then on the far right side is the trash can to delete it. But right before that, between the eye, are 3 lines, and that is your adjust. And so what that brings you up to is this screen that gives you your controls.
See,
Okay.
I got it.
The 3 lines, that's edit. And I'm sorry because it didn't show up on that before. Now that we're in edit, let's talk about this. Adjust means let's work on the photo. Filters, I really dislike because all it does is throw this other warmth or whatever over it. I keep it on original. Crop. Crop is, so a few things on crop. The first one is to make it level. Okay. Now, when I take a photo, I make sure it's level, and I'll show you how to do that. The next one is sometimes if you're taking like in this one, there's a little bit of the adjustment. Watch what happens. I can adjust. See how that looks more square and realistic? I'm adjusting the parallax that the lens has, and I can do the same thing this way on the horizontal. You don't really do that a lot, but like let's say I was shooting from an angle, you can correct that. The one you'll usually do is straighten, okay? And the cleanup is now only the newer phones, I believe it's from the 15 Pro and newer, supports cleanup because that's artificial intelligence. And if I tap this, shoot, I don't think it's going to get rid of me. We'll try. If not, I'll find you something that does.
You could probably get rid of the fence.
Uh, I could, but then because I make it complicated. So let's see here. It's like I was never there.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not perfect. There's a little shadowing on the fence. So Bev said, let's get rid of the fence too then. Let's try that.
Because it seems like it likes if it's got the same background behind, it's a lot easier than like that one you had with the Buddha that was asking three different things. The sky, the Buddha, and you to replace.
Here. Nah, it didn't like that.
No, give it time.
Oh, there it goes. And so what this does is it interpolates what's there. The grass isn't perfect, but it uses the other grass. It's not like it saw behind the fence, or remember, it's behind the fence and behind me. So pretty wild.
One
Now
thing
this,
on that photo, what I've used is, I mean, you can crop, but also the say up on the top, it's not showing now, but you can use the different oh, what do they call it when it's 3:5 aspect ratio? You can choose an aspect ratio and put it like in a square and it'll size it into a square.
well, okay, let me show you that in crop, but I'm going to point out one other thing. You notice right here, there's this shadow, and that may be a shadow from the fence. So the only one that's really looks like a big deal is that one. And there it goes. Now you were never there. I could almost fix the flaw in the grass. Now we're going a little extreme here, but let's try that. Because it will interpolate by the rest of the grass. And this will get better. Look at that. The little dot there. I want to fix that. So I'm a groundskeeper.
And you're just using your finger, not a stylus. My finger's
No,
so
I'm using my finger. Yeah. The best stylus there is. Okay. That brings up another point about photography. If you're
aspect.
in cold weather,
Hmm.
sometimes those gloves work where you can do stuff, but if you're taking photos, I always now, when I'm in cold weather, I have gloves that have tips that are exposed and everything else, but I always have a stylus that's on a leash around my wrist because I can have my gloves on and I can manipulate my camera on my iPhone with the stylus and my hands stay warm. Speaking from experience. So I'll hit cancel. I'm going to discard changes. So Bev mentioned oh, and it doesn't show up at the top.
Yeah, because if you free crop, sometimes you, and then if you ever want to print it,
Oh, I know what it was. I'm sorry. If we go into crop mode. So in crop mode,
yeah,
you go
that.
up. So here is, again, we were looking vertically on how to do it down here. This flips it horizontally or flips it vertically. Like, for instance, if you take a picture of something, but it might look better the other way, now I'm the other way. But be
Ah.
careful because I have a sign that says Istanbul. Now, this is what I did on Istanbul. There was a sign that I shot from the back. And so it was Istanbul the wrong way. I flipped it around and the Istanbul sign all of a sudden looked like I was in front of it. The other one is to rotate, 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 rotate. Then up here in the upper right, this is the aspect ratio as uh, Bev pointed out. So freeform means you can do it how you want. You can do it square. You can do it landscape, original, or all that. And when you adjust it, it like if I'm doing it in my original one, you'll notice I'm just going up, but it's causing it to crop. And then you'd go and move it around like
Well,
that.
and you can go original freeform and scroll over. You'll have square. You have 3:4, 5:7 wallpaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
19 by 16 is what your computer screen is typically. 4 by 5 or 4 by 5 is pretty typical. 5 by 7, and it's just the aspect ratios. And then this over on the more, look at this. I can copy the edits. So the other thing is, any photo you have in Photos on any of your Apple devices, any changes you make are completely undoable back to the original photo. So that's a huge deal. Markup allows you to you can well you can you can write on it. You can do text. You hit plus, add text. You can say add text. There's the thing.
Where was that on the text?
Hang on. So I'm going to test. So then I do that, and then well, I would move it up. So let me get out of markup. So let me get out of cancel. Let me discard changes. Okay. So in the upper right corner where that's called an ellipsis, the three dots, and unfortunately you can't see it on your screen. Let me see if I'm in edit mode and it shows up. Ah, perfect. Right here is tap it, and oh, it doesn't show markup now. Oh, well, because here's markup. This is markup right here. So markup comes up with a screen down here. So you have like a marker, and you can change the thickness, you can change the color. You have a pen, you have a Sharpie pen, you can change the color of the text. But if I hit the plus sign, it comes up and says, put an image description in there, add a sticker, add text, add a signature, add a shape, add a loop. That's like a thing in. But if I click add text, oops. If I click add text, it comes up. Now I'm going to change this to red, for instance. And then I can go here. Oops. Oh, there it is. So I can move it. Oops. I don't want to do that. I hit undo right up here. And so if oh, oh crap, I don't know. I'm having trouble moving it around, but that's only because I'm so lame. So it shows on the photo there, and then I can always go done, and I can go to this photo and I can revert to original, which is, oh, there it is, revert in the upper right, revert to original. So boom. Gosh. So we didn't get to the Apple ecosystem. It's pretty much, I'll bomb through it in seconds here just to show you, because this has actually been recorded on the hang on, I'm trying to hide others. It was recorded on the last general meeting, but I'll bomb through it really quick. What were you doing in the 50s? 50 years ago, because Apple just had their anniversary on April 1st. And just briefly go through, this is the original Apple logo. These are logos over time. The bottom one is currently what they're using. They've kind of gone with a little translucence and things like that. This was the event. This one was one of their best campaigns to the crazy ones and the whole Think Different, which this is all of them combined. I highly recommend. I went down to the Computer History Museum. They have some prototypes down there. That wasn't that big a deal. But go to the website, computerhistory.org. There are some incredible videos from people that were early on with Apple. It is just amazing. This video in particular, which was hosted by David Pogue, is phenomenal. Oh, I opened the wrong one. There we go. So iCloud, this is all the stuff that's going with iCloud. I think I think most of you were at the, what the heck? Why did that come up? Why? Oh, for some reason it clicked it. Oh, I'm in Keynote. Give me a break here. There we go. So this is how all our devices, one device does not connect directly to the other device. It goes via the cloud. That's the intermediary. You create a new device or a new contact on your iPhone, it goes up to here, then goes to your other devices. Then on your iPad, you change somebody's phone number or something, it goes up there and does that. These are all the things that work up on iCloud. I went into pretty good detail on that. This is from MacMost. I highly recommend their videos. MacMost is incredible. MacMost and Proper Honest Tech are fantastic Mac resources. Your photos go up to the cloud. One thing that's important on your photos, if you have cloud photos and syncing, remember, if you take a photo and you delete it from one device, it deletes it from them all. All the modifications we were just showing you can do to photos. If you change it from a live photo to a long exposure, that will go to all your photos on all your devices. It will update them. If you crop the photo, or you crop somebody out, or you use the cleanup, that will go to all your photos. But remember, absolutely anything you do, you can always get it back to the original. Cloud settings, this is where to work. I'll show you later in a menu. It's super secure. All your iCloud stuff is very, very secure. It's with your Apple account. The rest of the EcoStructure, the custom domain name is only mac.com, me.com, and iCloud.com. Currently, you can only get iCloud.com. The nice thing is the home kit, there's certain video cameras for home video security cameras, and it's stored on your own iCloud, so therefore it's very secure. Look for it being a HomeKit compatible or Apple Home compatible, or it's called Matter, if it's Matter. And that will use a little bit your iCloud storage space, but it's your own stuff in your own security. That's huge. Talks about and then you can also send your documents and desktop up to the cloud so you can access it on all of your devices. There are, and I'll show you in a second here, family sharing benefits does not mean, it doesn't exclusively mean family, and it doesn't exclusively mean someone in your house. They're pretty good about this. But what happens is all of your data, let's say you have 4 people that you're sharing your iCloud space with. You each have your own Apple ID, and therefore all of your information is in a silo that's only yours. Only you can see what's there. But the beauty is you're sharing the space because you're using the aggregate of the space. So not everybody is having to pay 99 cents a month or things like that. And it works. Now, sharing purchases. So the nice thing is, for instance, if you have a family share set up, if you buy an app on one, or if you do the music, it makes it so you're able to share that stuff, shared calendars, all those things. You want to make sure it backs up regularly, and that is in iCloud, which we'll show you in settings in a second. All the syncs happen. A sync is not backup. So generally speaking, the individual ones are, you get 5 gigabytes for free. That's the drug pusher approach because you're going to eventually need more. So you go, it's 50 gigabytes for 99 cents a month, 200, which is 4 times the space for 3 times the price. And then you get up to 2 terabytes. So you get 10 times the storage of that last one for 3 times the price. But here's the deal. Apple is, they're trying to save you money. Yeah, right. Well, really, a lot of Apple now is the services, and that's a big part of Apple, and it's good because it's ongoing. But what happens is you have the ability to combine some services and you might be able to save money. So depending on what you want, I personally don't care about arcade, not much about music, but I use iCloud and I definitely like Apple TV. So as an individual for 19.95 a month, instead of 28.96 a month for all four of those, you get it for 19.95 by bundling it. Okay. But for instance, like in me, where I wouldn't use arcade, if I knock $7 off, well, see, it's suspiciously close to it anyway. But when you go here, it says family, but you can share it with any five people. Now, if you want to become, yeah, think about it. If you have five people that you want to share the space with, nobody says that you can't charge them more than what 1/5 of it is. So, let's think about this. And depends on where they are in your friend circle and stuff. But basically, if you look at as an individual, what you get is you now, instead of 50 gigabytes, remember it was 299 for 200. So now you're essentially getting the 299 in here, 200 gigabytes. Apple TV, you're sharing with five people. Apple Music, it's increased $6 because it's shared, and Arcade's the same. So now for $6 more than this was, you're getting there's $2 of it right there. So for $4 more, you're getting more storage and you can share it out. And again, everything is your own. Nobody knows. The only thing you're sharing is this amount of space, and you're sharing access to this. But in fact, everybody has their own Apple TV account. Everyone has their own music, their own arcade account, and nothing commingles between them. Okay? Everybody has their own Apple ID that it's tied to. If you want to go to Premiere, this, for instance, for me, I had 2 terabytes of iCloud, I had Apple TV, I had music, and I wasn't using these others, but I was at $36.95 a month. So for me, another dollar, and I got Arcade Fitness Plus and News Plus. So that was worth it. And what actually helped is I have a friend that I share the account with, and we have a deal worked out where I get special parking access up at North Star. So that's where she pays for her portion of it. And believe me, that's worth a lot of money for me. So anyway, this is a really good deal. It's what, $12 more, and you have 2 terabytes worth of storage, and then you still have all the other things. So that's a big deal. These settings are important, the iCloud settings. I refer you back to the video. I went through this in very short or very long video that you can see, and Al has the notes for it. Oh, actually, the big thing we want to see is we want to make sure that your iCloud backup is on. That's a huge deal. And setting your default calendars, and this is the same thing on the Mac. So and on the Mac, you have to go into calendar and contacts to set your default. But I encourage you to go to that. And then question, Ellie, go for it.
Yeah, really quickly, I cannot find the wonderful chat list of links that Al puts up every week and is much appreciated, but I never can find it after the meeting. Where do I go?
So so it should come in the next, it'll be an email blast, and it may be delayed because Bob is in the hospital right now. He's doing okay, but he's in the hospital.
Good.
So he has his devices, but he doesn't have access to the server and stuff.
Oh, it's in that email, not
Yeah,
on the website.
and it's in the email. So,
I've seen it.
I
Yeah.
yeah, so it'll always be in there, but I'm also wondering,
Do you go to
Al,
Facebook?
I don't
yeah,
actually, but if that's where it is, that's where I'll go.
well, and the
Uh,
other thing is, I wonder, Al, if you could go when you get a link, can you go to the YouTube video, our YouTube video, and put it in there in comments? Because it's a link, right?
yeah, yeah. So you're looking for last month's?
Well, actually, the other
Actually,
thing is, you know what? If you get me the link, I can put it on the website. And
Okay.
those would be good to archive anyway.
that's
Yeah.
what I like them all, and they just go by so fast. I can't catch them
Well,
all.
yeah. Well, the link that I'll send you just be for that month there, Ken. It won't be an archive condition unless we go back through and,
No,
Well,
uh,
no. I say, but if you can, when you send it to Bob, because I don't always look at those, try
yeah,
to see me on the link, and then Bob or I both can update the website, but that way I can at least get it on the website, and it'd be nice because we can archive it.
yeah, I would say archive it going forward. It's and I probably have
Yeah,
all the email blasts for the last few months, but
yeah,
they've been very
exactly.
helpful, Al. Thanks again. But it's
great,
Oh,
great.
it's
Glad somebody's reading
oh
it.
yeah.
it is wonderful. And on the other hand, I'm not a huge Facebook fan, and I'm on it a little, but very little. But if I need to know what's going on with Apple, I just look at Al's posts on our Facebook group, and
Yeah, those are
they're
great.
they're my best research. I don't need AI, I need AL.
AT.
AT,
Yeah.
baby.
Well,
It's
no,
all
because
good.
he's Al.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. And Mary, go ahead with your question, and then Randy's got one.
Before we go, Thursday the 9th, we're having a lunch and we haven't heard back from a lot of people at the hi, boy, the what's the
Social at the Limelight.
Limelight? Yes, I was kept thinking Slimelight, sorry. From olden days.
Yeah,
So
the old timers will know exactly what you mean. Don't worry about it.
yep,
And Mary, that's the 9th at 11:30, correct?
correct.
Yeah, it's a Thursday,
So
I believe.
it is a
Yes.
Thursday.
I might be able to make this one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be there or not, but keep my
Uh,
fingers crossed.
Randy and Mary are coordinated that, and thank you for that. It's great.
And well, mostly Randy and Bob puts out the notice. So thanks to Bob. So
Yeah. And then the last one, Randy, you had a question?
Mary covered it fully. No, it was just a
Ah,
shout out, just a reminder for the MacNexus lunch, all members and their guests, Limelight, like Mary said,
and we're not going to talk,
1014
it's not
Alhambra
about
Boulevard.
Mac stuff.
No.
It's,
Right.
we felt that, and the board decided, and it makes sense, every so often, whether it be quarterly or whatever, is there's so much of the early of MacNexus was during the break, during the workshops, it would be social. And then before the meeting, it was always social. And, COVID's over. So we decided this was a great way because Zoom is so good functionally for what we're doing, especially because it records everything.
that's
And it's always on YouTube under MacNexus. But the big thing is that now we can have a social component, but don't expect to have workshops or anything else there because as a volunteer run group, we're kind of stretched to what we can do. So therefore, this thing is great and easy and you can show up and have fun. And I
and it's
should mention,
decent food for a decent price.
Yeah.
I looked at the menu. It looked really good. And we have our own little room. We're set aside, we're outcasts. And the other thing I should mention is the third Saturday is also a great one. And then the WITS, the Women in Technology Sisterhood. Now, don't they still meet at what, Panera?
Alternate months.
Yeah, alternate months. Yeah.
alternate months at Panera, and even though it's the Women's in Technology
Yeah, the
Sisterhood,
half-wits can attend, right?
men can come, but they're considered a half-wit. So be ready for the slings and arrows, but it's okay.
Baby,
They're
baby.
inclusive.
Brutal.
All right. Thank you, everybody. If anybody has any last minute questions, go ahead, and thank you. Oh, good to see Lisa online.
Yeah.
We'll see her at the board meeting, maybe. And I did get the email. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Everyone,
I'm
have a
glad you
good
did.
one. Al, I think I turned on the AI companion. So when I get that, I'll send it to you.
Okay, I got the chat link saved, so I
Perfect.
think I've already got PDF built here. I just whatever you
You're
send
good.
me. Ready to rock.